I think this is bloody stupid. The entire sequence of event and the message that the regulators and the Chinese government is sending to the world. They are basically telling investors and institutions alike to diamond hands and don't sell out. But it feels to me as if that the Chinese government is trying to own goal themselves, trying to make the market much more speculative and attracting more and more people with the gambling mentality. This new breaking news that just came out from one of the Chinese regulators saying that they're going to ban online game operators from certain reward incentive structure and imposing a limit in terms of how much the players or the users can spend. It came right after, one day right after this announcement of, the Chinese state-owned banks are cutting their deposit rates by 10, 20, 25 basis points. Essentially, they're trying to stir up consumption demand because if people are not incentivized to save their money in the bank, that's where they will spend money in the real economy. And then right after that, you see this announcement basically just hit investors like a truck. Nobody saw this coming. And NetEase was down 3.6%, Tencent was down 2%. And these are rookie numbers, by the way. Tencent on the day itself, it's down close to 15%. And NetEase is down like 25% because it's purely a gaming company. So if you really look into the details, it was really, really iffy. And if we zoom into the Reuters article, it says that the new rules will effectively set spending limits for online games. Online games will now be banned for giving players rewards if they log in every day, if they spend on the game for the first time, or if they spend several times on the game consecutively. All are common incentive mechanisms in online games. And I think it's just common knowledge amongst investors now, specifically in the Chinese market, that there's this sense of frustration, disappointment, bewilderness. People are just, I don't know, flabbergasted. I don't even know what kind of vocabulary to use now. So like what Stephen has said, it's not necessarily the regulation itself, it's the policy risk that's too high. So people had thought that this kind of risk should have been over and had started to look at the fundamentals again, and it hurts confidence a lot. The new curbs also clash with the earlier signals from China that it will ease up on restrictions against the internet giant. And this is on top of the mixed signal where the regulators have essentially just begun approving new games again this year, where people thought that, hey, we are nearing to the end of the tunnel, we are seeing some light. What are they thinking? Honestly, if you were to ask me, this new slew of regulations that are coming out, why can't it be concocted earlier and then just deal the entire blow to investors? One shot. Why do you have to do it in multiple phases? So what are they trying to achieve here? I really have no clue. But I think back to looking at the company's fundamentals. So I've essentially pulled out the last 15 quarters of Tencent's earnings breakdown or revenue breakdown, and to see what is the percentage influence and how would it potentially play out in the upcoming 3 to 4 quarters. So honestly, when you look at this entire new regulations coming into the picture, I would presume that it's not going to affect the international games market because the US, the EU regulators, they're not going to be bothered about some of this new introduction. But the biggest issue here really is in this domestic market. So if you were to really just look at in terms of the percentage revenue, based on just a very quick calculation, the revenue contribution of the domestic market is closer to around $30 billion RMB. And Tencent has been doing around 140 to 150 billion. So 30 divided by 150, that's around a 1/5 position or a 1/5 impact in terms of their revenue contribution. Of course, you're not going to tell me that, hey, all 30 billion RMB revenue contribution is going to be affected by this. But I definitely do agree that because they want to curb this impulse spending, there is going to be a hit in terms of their top line numbers from their domestic arm. And more importantly, let's not forget that this slew of different regulations interruption, it's not the first time. So initially, back in September of 2021, there was already one round of regulation where they actually restricted minors. And I think based on the qualification or based on the disclosure from Tencent's earnings report, the time spent by minors actually decreased by 92% year on year, which constituted around 0.7% of the domestic time spent. So there was a slowdown in terms of consumption activity. They were still in COVID lockdown, and you can see that generally consumer sentiments are not good. And then you tie in together with this entire minor not being able to play computer games. I think they restrict it to 1 hour a day. That's where you see that the game segment actually took a hit. But clearly, from 2023 onwards, Tencent actually recovered quite strongly, and you can see that they have actually proven to be quite resilient. However, I think this new round of regulation will actually have a pretty seismic impact to it, because Trying to adjust and trying to refine the incentive mechanism in-game, but imposing a spending limit is another. So Weibo's Money Boo campaign has never been better. They have since lowered the requirements for those who have yet to participate. Right now, you have to fulfill 3 key steps. First, tap on to participate now and complete an initial funding of any amount during the campaign period. Second, accumulate a net deposit amount of at least $2,000 and activate Money Boo before the 29th of December 2023. Third, maintain the net accumulated deposit amount in the stipulated event period and you'll be able to enjoy cash vouchers worth between $80 to $3,000. So it really has never been easier. So for those of you who are worried about foreign exchange risks regarding converting your Singapore dollars to your US dollars, you don't have to. There are no requirements regarding activating Money Boo on the US Money Market Fund or the SGD one. So either will do. You may also deactivate your Money Boo subscription at any point after activating it during the campaign period. You just need to ensure that the accumulated deposit amount meets the requirement during the event period. So I hope that you'll take full advantage of this deal in this holiday season. So for those without a Weibo account today, sign up link is in the description box down below. Thank you Weibo for sponsoring this video. But the silver lining in this entire new regulatory introduction is that a lot of things are still up in the air, so there weren't much details being provided, and we don't really know what's the new framework moving forward on how they intend to enforce and execute on some of these very vague terms. Online games will now be banned from giving players rewards if they log in every day, or if they spend on the game for the first time, or if they spend several times on the games consecutively. So what if we do something like what the e-commerce players are doing? Let's create a 11/11, 12/12 sale. On that specific day, players are able to enjoy greater rewards. Are they going to clamp down on that? So if they are going to do that, so are they going to also clamp down on the e-commerce players as well? There's so many questions, so little answers. And honestly, if you were to ask the gaming players in the industry now, they probably don't know what to expect as well. And truth be told, when I look back at the different revenue contribution of Tencent, actually the gaming arm is a substantial portion, which is 1/5 of the entire business. But does it warrant a huge drop in terms of a 15% drop? I honestly don't know. It really depends on how the Chinese regulators are going to go on moving forward from here, and how strict are they going to tighten their grip in terms of the gaming industry. And will this essentially have a permanent impact on maybe putting a price cap or putting a revenue cap saying that, oh, Tencent from now on, you can only earn maybe 25 billion or 30 billion RMB, and creating some sort of a hypothetical ceiling. There's too many questions here, which is why I can understand why the market reacted this way. So on a personal note, I think some of you have also PM'd me and asked, hey Chiking, there's this new slew of regulations again. How is it going to affect Tencent? How is it going to affect Baba? How is it going to affect the internet giants? The short answer is, I don't know. But I already have a current position in Tencent now. And because of this new drawdown, Tencent is currently trading at near my cost price. I think my average price of Tencent is around $270 and Tencent is at $260, $270. So this is my game plan now. There's a lot of things in the air. I don't have a lot of details. So I'm going to give it another 2 to 4 quarters to see how these new regulations are going to play out and then make my assessments from there again. Let the Wall Street, let people, let normal investors digest the information, crunch their new numbers, put into their model and come up with a new valuation for Tencent moving forward from here on. But I think many investors, myself included, are clearly exasperated. I thought we could have closed the chapter from this entire tech crackdown, and I think the Chinese government and regulators probably need to wake up their ideas soon. They're slowly losing more and more people, whether it's international fund managers or even retail investors. I don't know how long it's going to take to rebuild goodwill and confidence into the Chinese economy and the Chinese stock market again. If they really want to be a remotely successful country, I think having a sound and trustworthy financial market is a prerequisite. Anyhow, I do have a few baseline expectations of how some of these gaming companies are going to react from here on. Firstly, I think there's a Chinese term called 上有政策,下有对策. Basically, whenever there's new regulations, it will have some sort of a short-term impact because that's basically the objective of the government. They wish to incentivize certain structure. However, I do believe that there is some of the brightest talents in some of these companies, and they're going to come up with some very interesting, very innovative way to basically skirt the regulatory requirements. On one hand, trying to appease the Chinese government. On the other hand, they are able to drive their profits, drive their growth again. So on the first point, which is where some of these predatory behaviors, or pricing mechanism will always be there. And I think it's probably very, very hard, impossible to extinguish or eliminate. Secondly, I think in terms of the spending percentage on a population-wide basis, at least on a gaming front, there is still a very die-hard, hardcore fans that are going to spend an immense amount of money in games. That said, I do believe that there's a group of impulse buyers. They are probably going to be diverting their spending to maybe e-commerce, to shopping, to whatever out there, to fill in this void of their gaming purchases. But I think this shock to the gaming industry will probably normalize in the longer term. So right now, feelings and emotions are taking over a lot of investors' perspective, and everybody is basically just en masse selling out. At least for myself, I'm just gonna take a closer look at how this entire thing is gonna play out, and yeah, that's just my own perspective. And I think last but not least, I was actually scrolling through my subscriber email list, and I saw somebody actually from Tencent. So I don't know whether you'll be watching this video or not, but if you are working in Tencent and you are watching this video, do you mind reaching out? I would want to converse or exchange some thoughts with you. So yeah, with that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.